Jade Miller had always believed the end of the world would announce itself with fire and brimstone. He was wrong. It arrived with the scent of Chanel No. 5 and the click of designer heels on bathroom marble. The thing about working the late shift at Marcello's, Chicago's premier destination for politicians, CEOs, and the kind of men who made people disappear, was that Jade had perfected the art of being nobody. A ghost in a black apron. The girl who refilled water glasses and vanished from memory the moment she turned away. That particular skill had kept her alive for 26 years. It was about to get her killed. She was scrolling through her phone in the last stall of the ladies' room, 7 minutes into her pathetic 10-minute break, when the door swung open. Jade's thumb froze. She knew those footsteps. Red-soled Louboutin, the kind that cost more than 3 months of her rent. Natalie Cruz, all cascading dark hair, blood-red lips, and the kind of beauty that made men stupid. More importantly, Natalie Cruz, girlfriend of Dominic Russo, the man who owned half of Chicago's underworld and all of its fear. I told you, he's at the window table. Natalie's voice was velvet wrapped around a razor blade. Right by the glass. Jade's heart stopped. The bathroom at Marcello's was designed by some architect who'd never considered that people might need privacy. All marble and glass and sharp angles. Sound didn't absorb here. It bounced, it amplified, it betrayed. The others are in position, Natalie continued, her tone as casual as ordering wine. 1 at the bar. 3 covering the kitchen exits. When he leans back in his chair, you'll have your shot. Cling. Center mass. The sink ran. Through the crack in the stall door, Jade could see Natalie checking her reflection, adjusting her lipstick with the precision of someone who'd never had to worry about anything messier than a broken nail. Make it quick, Natalie said. This dress is Valentino. I'd rather not explain bloodstains to my stylist. Before we go any further, if this story has you hooked, hit subscribe and drop a comment. Tell me where you are listening from. Let's get back to the story. The door whispered shut. Jade sat paralyzed on a toilet in a 5-star steakhouse, phone clutched in white-knuckled hands, every instinct screaming the same thing. Not your problem. Walk away. You didn't hear anything. She'd built her entire life on that philosophy. Don't get involved. Don't make waves. Survive by staying invisible. But here's the thing about being invisible. Eventually, you realize it's just a slower way of disappearing completely. Jade stood. Her legs shook. Her hands trembled as she smoothed down her apron as she unlocked the stall door, as she walked back into the dining room where crystal chandeliers cast golden light over white tablecloths and the city glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows like a promise no one intended to keep. Dominic Russo sat at table 12, the best seat in the house. Behind him, Chicago sprawled in all its late-night glory, a kingdom he ruled from the shadows. Across from him, Natalie scrolled through her phone, smiling that perfect smile, playing the role of devoted girlfriend with Academy Award precision. Near the bar, a man in a dark suit nursed a whiskey, his attention too carefully casual. By the kitchen entrance, 3 more men in server uniforms that didn't quite fit right. Jade grabbed a dessert menu and a blank check. Her hand shook as she clicked her pen, as she wrote 7 words that would either save a monster's life or end her own. They're close. Your woman betrayed you. She folded the paper like a funeral shroud and walked across that dining room like she was walking toward her own execution. Each step felt too loud, too final. The kind of decision you don't come back from. Any dessert for you this evening, Mr. Russo? Her voice came out steadier than she had any right to expect. Professional. Unmemorable. Everything she'd trained herself to be. She set the folded check beside his crystal tumbler of whiskey, her pulse screaming in her ears. Dominic Russo didn't even look at her. Men like him never did. She was furniture. Scenery. Nothing. But his hand moved toward the paper. And Jade Miller, waitress, ghost, nobody, held her breath and waited to see if saving a devil would damn her soul or finally give her one worth saving. Dominic Russo's fingers brushed the folded paper. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Jade stood frozen in that space between breathing and drowning, her server's smile plastered across her face like a mask she couldn't feel anymore. Tiramisu, Natalie said suddenly, her voice bright and sharp. I'll have the tiramisu, baby. You know how I love sweet things. She reached across the table, her manicured hand covering Dominic's before he could unfold the note. Her smile was radiant. Practiced. The kind of smile that belonged on magazine covers and in courtroom alibis. Jade's throat closed. She'd just signed her death warrant and the ink was still wet. "Of course," she heard herself say. "And for you, sir?" Dominic's eyes lifted to hers for the first time. They were dark, calculating, the kind of eyes that had watched men beg and hadn't blinked. For one terrible second, Jade thought he could see straight through her carefully constructed invisibility, could see every scared, stupid decision that had led her to this moment. "Nothing for me." His voice was low, textured like smoke over gravel. His hand slid out from under Natalie's, taking the folded paper with it. "Just the check." Right away. Jade turned before her knees could give out, before the scream building in her chest could claw its way past her lips. She made it 3 steps before she heard it. The soft rustle of paper unfolding. She didn't turn around. Didn't need to. She could feel the moment he read those 7 words like a shockwave rippling through the dining room's carefully curated atmosphere. Behind her, Natalie laughed at something on her phone. The sound was crystalline, musical, completely wrong for a woman who'd ordered murder like room service 20 minutes ago. Jade reached the server station and gripped the edge of the counter. Her reflection stared back from the polished espresso machine, pale, wide-eyed, already a ghost. Through the cutout window to the dining room she could see table 12. Dominic sat perfectly still. The paper rested on the white tablecloth between his whiskey and Natalie's wine glass. He wasn't looking at it anymore. He was looking at Natalie, his expression smooth as glass and twice as dangerous. Natalie smiled back at him, reached across to squeeze his hand, said something that made her eyes crinkle at the corners, all warmth and devotion and beautifully executed lies. The man at the bar shifted his weight. One of the fake servers near the kitchen adjusted his position, his hand moving toward the waistband of his too-tight uniform. Dominic picked up his whiskey, took a slow sip, set it down with the kind of control that came from years of never showing weakness, never showing fear, never showing anything at all. Then his eyes found Jade's across the dining room. She should have looked away. Should have pretended she was just another server going about her shift, unaware, uninvolved, safe in her practiced invisibility. Instead she held his gaze. And in that moment, Jade Miller understood exactly what she'd done. She hadn't just warned a monster. She'd made herself his accomplice. His liability. His problem. And Dominic Russo had built an empire on solving problems permanently. Natalie's laugh rang out again, bright and deadly as broken glass. The tiramisu Jade thought distantly was going to have to wait. The first shot shattered the illusion before it shattered the window. Jade was halfway back to the kitchen when the glass exploded behind Dominic's head. The sound punched through the dining room's expensive silence like a fist through silk. Crystal chandeliers swayed. Wine glasses toppled. Someone screamed, high and sharp, the kind of sound that belonged in nightmares. Dominic moved like liquid violence. 1 second he was seated, the next he'd flipped the table, dragging Natalie down with him behind the makeshift barrier. She shrieked, her Valentino dress tangling around her knees, her performance finally cracking at the edges. The man at the bar drew his weapon. The fake servers near the kitchen moved as one, hands reaching, metal glinting under the golden light. Jade's body made the decision before her brain caught up. She dove sideways, hit the floor hard enough to knock the air from her lungs, and scrambled toward the server station. Bullets punched through mahogany paneling above her head. Someone was crying. Someone else was praying. The wealthy elite of Chicago discovering that money couldn't stop physics. She made it behind the counter as the kitchen doors burst open. Real servers poured out, confused, terrified, running directly into the line of fire. Jade grabbed the nearest one, Marcus, 22, working his way through community college, and yanked him down beside her. "Service tunnel," she gasped. "Yow. What the?" Another spray of gunfire. Marcus stopped asking questions. Jade's eyes found Dominic across the chaos. He'd pulled a gun from somewhere, because of course he had, and was returning fire with the kind of calm precision that came from practice. Natalie cowered behind him, screaming his name, clutching at his jacket like she hadn't orchestrated this entire nightmare. Their eyes met again. His dark and calculating even now, hers probably wild with the kind of stupid heroism that got waitresses killed. She pointed toward the kitchen. Mouthed one word. Tunnel. He understood immediately. Started moving, using overturned tables as cover, dragging Natalie with him even as she fought him, her perfectly styled hair coming loose, her makeup smearing with tears that might have been real or might have been her final performance. Jade didn't wait. She grabbed Marcus and two other servers and ran for the kitchen, keeping low, her ears ringing from gunfire and breaking glass and the end of her carefully invisible life. The kitchen was chaos. Chefs scattered. Pots crashed. Someone had hit the fire alarm and water rained from the sprinklers, turning the floor into a skating rink of blood and butter and broken dreams. Jade hit the back corner, threw open the access panel most people thought was a breaker box, and revealed the service tunnel, a relic from Prohibition when this building had been a speakeasy and escape routes were good business. "Go!" she shouted at the servers. They didn't argue, disappearing into the narrow darkness. Behind her, Dominic crashed through the kitchen doors. His suit was torn, blood, not his she hoped, splattered across his white shirt. He had Natalie by the wrist, dragging her like cargo, his gun sweeping the room for threats. "Move," he barked. Jade moved. Into the tunnel, into the dark, into whatever came next. Behind them, the restaurant that had been her entire world for 3 years burned and bled and became just another crime scene in a city built on them. The metal door slammed shut. The gunfire became distant. Muffled. In the darkness, Dominic Russo's breathing was steady. Controlled. Like he'd done this before. Jade's was ragged, desperate, alive. "Who the hell are you?" he asked. "Nobody," Jade whispered. "I'm nobody." She'd never told a bigger lie. Jade woke up in a bed that cost more than her entire apartment and immediately knew she was in trouble. The sheets were Egyptian cotton. The ceiling was coffered and hand-painted with something that looked Renaissance but was probably just expensive. Morning light filtered through curtains that whispered when they moved, the kind of fabric that had never seen the inside of a department store. He sat up too fast. Her head spun. The room tilted like a ship in rough water. "Don't." A voice from the corner, smooth and dark as aged whiskey. "You had a mild concussion. Doctor said to take it slow." Jade's eyes adjusted. Dominic Russo sat in a leather chair by the window, still wearing last night's torn suit, dried blood still on his collar. He looked like he hadn't slept. He looked like he didn't need to. "Where?" Her voice cracked. She tried again. "Where am I?" "Pie home." He said it like it was obvious. Like kidnapping waitresses was just another Tuesday. "You're safe here." Safe. The word tasted like a lie. Jade threw back the covers. Silk because of course they were, and discovered she was wearing clothes that weren't hers. Soft pajamas that fit perfectly. Someone had undressed her while she was unconscious. The thought made her skin crawl. "Pie housekeeper," Dominic said, reading her face. "Maria. She's been with my family for 30 years. Your uniform was ruined." Jade stood on shaking legs. The room was bigger than her entire studio apartment. There were actual paintings on the walls, not prints. A fireplace she could have stood in. Windows that overlooked what appeared to be a private lake. "I need to go home," she said. "You don't have a home anymore." The words hit like a slap. Jade turned to face him, her hands clenching into fists. "Excuse me." Dominic stood, moved to a side table, poured 2 glasses of water from a crystal pitcher. He brought her one. She didn't take it. "Your apartment was firebombed 3 hours ago," he said. His voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather. "Your car was found in the river. As far as Chicago's underworld is concerned, you're either dead or you're mine. Most are betting on the latter." The room tilted again. This time it had nothing to do with the concussion. "They think I'm your..." She couldn't finish the sentence. "My accomplice. My informant. My lover." He set the glass down on a table that probably cost more than her yearly salary. "Take your pick. The story's already spreading. The waitress who saved Dominic Russo. The girl who knew about the hit. The woman at his side when he walked out of that restaurant alive. But I'm not. Doesn't matter what you are." His eyes were cold, clinical. "Matters what they think you are. And right now, every rival syndicate, every enemy I've made, and trust me I've made plenty, thinks you're the reason Natalie's plan failed. Which makes you their problem. Which makes you my responsibility." Jade's legs gave out. She sat on the edge of the $1 million bed, her head in her hands. 48 hours ago her biggest problem was making rent. Now she was a target for the entire Chicago underworld. I should have kept my mouth shut, she whispered. Probably. Dominic moved to the door. But you didn't. So now we both live with the consequences. Maria will bring you breakfast. Don't try to leave. The security system is comprehensive. He paused in the doorway, his silhouette framed by morning light. For what it's worth, he said, thank you for the warning. Not many people would have taken that risk. Yeah, well. Jade's laugh was bitter, broken. Look where it got me. The door closed with a soft click. The lock engaged. Jade Miller had spent her whole life trying to be invisible. Now she was the most visible girl in Chicago. And visibility, she was learning, was just another word for target. Dinner was served in a dining room that looked like The Godfather had a baby with Architectural Digest. Jade stood in the doorway taking it all in. The table could seat 20 but was set for 2. Crystal glasses caught the light from a chandelier that probably required its own insurance policy. Darkwood paneling. Oil paintings of stern men in old-fashioned suits. A marble fireplace large enough to roast a small car. Wow, she said. I always wondered what generational trauma looked like as interior design. Dominic looked up from his wine. He'd changed, dark suit, no tie, looking like every mob boss cliché ever written. Excuse me. Nothing. Jade walked to her seat, painfully aware she was wearing borrowed clothes that cost more than her entire wardrobe had. Just admiring the ambience. Very intimidating dead guys staring from the walls. Really sets the mood for digestion. A muscle twitched in his jaw. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. Sir. Should I curtsy first, or is that only for the dawn? She sat anyway because her options were limited and her stomach was eating itself. Maria emerged with plates, actual silver-domed plates, and set them down with the efficiency of someone who'd served thousands of uncomfortable dinners. Steak. Roasted vegetables. Probably incredible. Jade's hands shook as she picked up her fork. You always this mouthy when someone saves your life? Dominic cut into his steak with surgical precision. You mean when someone kidnaps me and destroys my entire existence? Jade took a bite. It was perfect. He hated that it was perfect. Yeah, pretty much. Sarcasm is cheaper than therapy. You had a choice. Did I? The fork clattered against her plate harder than she intended. Because from where I'm sitting, in your mansion wearing your clothes, eating your food while my apartment's a smoking crater, it really doesn't feel like I had a choice. Dominic set down his knife. His eyes were dark, unreadable. You could have kept walking. In that bathroom. You could have pretended you heard nothing. Yeah, I'm aware. Thanks for the reminder. Jade reached for her wine glass, then thought better of it. She needed all her wits intact. But here's the thing about spending your whole life invisible. Eventually you forget what it feels like to matter. Even if mattering gets you killed. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite sympathy. More like recognition. Why did you do it? He asked. The question was quieter now, more genuine. You didn't know me. Had no reason to care if I lived or died. Jade studied him across the ridiculous table in the ridiculous room. I heard her order your murder like it was takeout. She was going to watch you die while checking her Instagram. That kind of casual evil. She shook her head. I don't know. Maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe I thought someone should care. Stupid, Dominic agreed. But his mouth almost, curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Definitely stupid. Thanks. That's very comforting from the guy who apparently decorates with portraits of people he's probably related to who probably killed people. They definitely killed people. This time he did smile. It was brief, like sunshine through storm clouds, gone before she could fully register it. That one's my grandfather. 16 confirmed hits. Died of a heart attack at 92. Living the dream, Jade muttered. He used to say something. Dominic leaned back in his chair, wine glass balanced in his hand. The only thing more dangerous than an enemy is someone who has nothing left to lose. Sounds like a fun guy. He wasn't. Dominic's eyes found hers across the table. But he was right. You had nothing left to lose in that restaurant. That's what makes you either very dangerous or very valuable. Which one am I? Still deciding. They ate in silence for a moment. The fire crackled. The dead guys watched from their frames. Somewhere in the massive house, a clock chimed. The portraits are kind of much though, Dominic said finally. My mother's decorator. She had strong opinions. Jade almost choked on her wine. Did you just agree with me? Don't get used to it. But his eyes held something new. Not warmth exactly. More like acknowledgement. Like maybe, just maybe, the waitress with the sharp tongue and terrible survival instincts wasn't entirely insufferable. It wasn't friendship. It wasn't trust. But it was something. And in a gilded cage, something was better than nothing. The thing about being nobody was that nobody noticed when you came back from the dead. Jade stood across the street from Marcello's, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses like every other tourist in Chicago. The restaurant was closed, yellow police tape crisscrossing the entrance like warning ribbons. The windows were boarded up. Scorch marks climbed the brick facade where the fire had tried to spread. 3 days ago she'd worked here. Now it was a crime scene that had her DNA all over it. This is insane, she muttered into the burner phone Dominic had given her. I'm going to get arrested or shot or both. You won't. His voice crackled through the speaker, calm and certain. The police finished processing yesterday. No one's watching it anymore. You have 15 minutes. Right. 15 minutes to break into a crime scene. What could go wrong? But she was already moving, crossing the street with the casual confidence of someone who belonged. The first rule of being invisible: act like you're supposed to be there. The back entrance was exactly where she remembered, down the alley where delivery trucks used to park. The lock was broken. Looters probably, or cops who didn't care about securing a mob-hit location. The door swung open with a groan that sounded too loud in the empty alley. Inside Marcello's was a ghost. Tables overturned. Broken glass everywhere. The smell of smoke and spoiled food and something darker underneath. Jade's footsteps echoed on the marble floor. She kept the phone to her ear, kept Dominic's presence as her anchor to something resembling sanity. The ladies' room, she said. That's where Natalie made the call. If she left anything behind. Fast, Jade, he said as she pushed through the bathroom door. It looked worse in daylight, or what passed for daylight through boarded windows. The marble was cracked. One of the sinks had been ripped from the wall. But the vanity area where women set down their purses while they fixed their makeup was still intact. And wedged behind a basket of expensive hand lotions, because even in crime scenes Marcello's maintained standards, was a tablet. Rose gold. The kind of device that cost more than Jade used to make in a month. Got it, she breathed. Good. Now leave. Now. But Jade was already thumbing it open. No password, because apparently Natalie was beautiful and deadly but not particularly careful. The screen lit up. Messages. Emails. Photos. And a folder labeled insurance. Jade's hands shook as she opened it. Bank statements. Wire transfers. Accounts in the Caymans, Switzerland, places she'd only heard about in movies. Millions. Tens of millions. Money moving through shell corporations like water through a sieve. But it was the photos that made her stomach drop. Natalie with men in expensive suits. Natalie shaking hands with people whose faces Jade recognized from news reports about organized crime. Natalie smiling at cameras at galas and fundraisers, always next to someone powerful, always positioned perfectly. And emails. Got the emails. Russo's getting sloppy. His suppliers are talking. 6 months and we move. The restaurant hit is just the opening. We take the territory piece by piece. He trusts me completely. Pathetic, really. Jade scrolled faster. Names. Dates. Locations. This wasn't just about killing Dominic. This was about dismantling his entire organization, piece by carefully planned piece. Jade. Dominic's voice was sharp. You need to leave. Now. She wasn't just betraying you, Jade whispered. She was documenting everything. Everyone you work with, everyone you trust. She was building a case. Sirens. Distant but getting closer. Run. Jade ran. Out of the bathroom, through the restaurant, past the ghost of table 12 where this had all started. The tablet clutched to her chest like a bomb because that's essentially what it was. She hit the alley at a full sprint, the baseball cap flying off her head. Behind her, red and blue lights painted the walls. But she was already gone, already invisible again, just another nobody on a Chicago street. Except now that nobody was carrying enough evidence to start a war. And Natalie Cruz, wherever she was hiding, had just made her first real mistake. She'd underestimated what invisible people could do when they finally decided to be seen. The package arrived at dawn, delivered by a courier who didn't ask questions because he was paid not to. Jade was in the library because of course Dominic had a library, analyzing Natalie's tablet when she heard the shouting. Male voices, sharp and urgent. Then silence. The kind of silence that made her skin crawl. She found Dominic in his study, standing over his desk, staring at a small wooden box like it contained the end of the world. Maybe it did. Don't. His voice was rough, wrong. Don't come closer. But Jade had never been good at following instructions. She crossed the room, looked into the box and felt her stomach turn inside out. Finger. Woman's. Still wearing a ring. Sapphire, elegant, the kind of jewelry that made statements at expensive parties. And a note, written in handwriting too neat to be anything but deliberate. You kept something of mine. I kept something of yours. Maria, Dominic said. The word came out broken. She was wearing that ring. My mother gave it to her. 30 years. Jade's hand found his arm. His muscles were coiled tight, trembling with barely contained violence. Where is she? I don't know. He moved to the bar cart, poured bourbon with shaking hands. Drank it in one swallow. Poured another. She went to the market this morning. She always goes to the market on Thursdays. She always. The glass shattered against the wall. I'm going to kill her. His voice was cold now, dead. Worse than anger. I'm going to find Natalie and everyone she's ever loved and I'm going to... Stop. Jade stepped between him and the door. Just stop. Move, Jade. No. She planted her feet. You taught me something at dinner. Your grandfather's thing about people with nothing to lose. You want to know what's more dangerous than that? Someone with everything to lose who stops thinking. She took Maria. I know. And that's exactly what she wants. Jade grabbed his shoulders, forced him to look at her. She wants you reckless. Wants you charging in blind, making mistakes. That's the whole point of the message. She's baiting you. I don't care. Yes, you do. Her voice was sharp now, cutting through his rage. You care about Maria. Which means you don't get to throw away her life by being stupid. You want to save her? Then we use the tablet. We figure out where Natalie's hiding. We plan. We think. Dominic's eyes were black holes, consuming light. She cut off her finger, Jade. I know. Jade's hands tightened on his shoulders. And that means she's scared. People who are winning don't send theatrical messages. They just win. But Natalie's desperate. We have her digital life, her contacts, her entire operation documented. She's losing control and she knows it. So she took an innocent woman. To make you act like this. To make you forget you're smarter than her. Jade's voice softened. Maria's alive. That finger, it's fresh. Sent immediately. That means Natalie's keeping her alive as leverage. As bait. We have time. You don't know that. No, Jade admitted. But I know charging out that door right now gets Maria killed for sure. And probably me. And then Natalie wins everything. The study was silent except for their breathing. Outside, dawn broke over the private lake, painting the water gold and red. Blood and bourbon. Finally, Dominic's shoulders sagged. Not surrender. Something worse. The weight of responsibility. The burden of caring. I can't lose her, he said quietly. She raised me after my mother died. She's the only family I have left that's worth a damn. Then we save her. Jade released him, moved to the desk where Natalie's tablet sat like a loaded gun. We're smarter than Natalie. We have better information. And we have something she doesn't. What's that? Jade looked at him, this man who'd destroyed her life and saved it in the same breath. We actually give a damn about people. That's going to be her weakness. Not ours. Dominic stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Straightened. The cold control sliding back into place, but different now. Purposeful instead of murderous. Show me the tablet, he said. Jade smiled. How you're thinking. They had work to do. And somewhere in Chicago, Natalie Cruz was about to learn that invisible girls and careful monsters made a very dangerous team. The dress cost more than Jade's entire life before Dominic Russo walked into it. She stared at herself in the full-length mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. The stylist, flown in from New York because apparently Chicago wasn't good enough, had performed some kind of arcane ritual involving hot tools, expensive products, and what felt like architectural engineering. "I look ridiculous," Jade said. "You look dangerous." Dominic leaned against the doorframe of the guest suite, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "There's a difference." The dress was black because of course it was. Silk that moved like water, cut to suggest rather than reveal, the kind of garment that whispered money and power and things left unsaid. Her hair, usually thrown up in a messy bun for shifts, fell in waves that probably violated several laws of physics. Makeup that looked natural but had taken an hour to apply. Heels that could double as murder weapons. "The auction's tonight," Dominic said, pushing off the doorframe. He moved into the room, held out a velvet box. "You'll need this." Inside was a necklace. Diamonds. Real ones, from the way they caught the light and threw it back like accusations. "I can't wear that," Jade breathed. "You have to. Everyone there will be dripping in blood money and precious stones. You need to fit in." He moved behind her, lifted the necklace from its box. "Hey." She nodded, not trusting her voice. His fingers were surprisingly gentle as he fastened the clasp. The diamonds settled against her collarbone, cold and heavy. In the mirror they looked like a collar. Or a target. "Natalie's contact, Victor Kane, hosts these auctions quarterly," Dominic explained, his voice low. "Art, antiquities, things that aren't supposed to exist anymore. The underworld's shopping network. According to the tablet, she's been using them to broker deals, move money, build alliances. And you think she'll be there?" "I know she will." He met her eyes in the mirror. "There's a painting going up for auction tonight. Something she's been tracking for months. She won't miss it, even knowing we're hunting her. Her ego won't let her." Jade turned to face him. The dress moved with her like a second skin. "So I'm bait. You're my date." He adjusted his cufflinks. Solid gold, subtle, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. "My mysterious new companion. The woman who saved my life and disappeared into my protection. Everyone will want to know who you are. Including Natalie. Especially Natalie." Something dark flickered across his face. "She doesn't know we found the tablet. Doesn't know we have her entire network mapped. She thinks she's winning. Tonight we let her think that right up until we don't." Jade looked at herself again. The stranger in the mirror. The woman in diamonds and silk who used to count tips and pray her electricity wouldn't get shut off. "I don't know how to be this person," she admitted quietly. Dominic's hand found her chin, tilted her face up to meet his eyes. "You already are this person. You've been surviving in a world that wanted you invisible your entire life. Now you just do it in better clothes." "That's not exactly a pep talk." "I don't do pep talks." But his mouth curved slightly. "I do honesty. And honestly, you're more dangerous than any socialite in that room will ever be. They play at power. You've earned it by staying alive when you shouldn't have." A knock at the door. One of Dominic's men, Carlo, built like a tank and twice as subtle, stuck his head in. "Cars are ready, boss. Security's in position." "Good." Dominic offered Jade his arm. "Ready to go meet the monsters?" Jade slipped her hand through his elbow. The dress whispered. The diamonds caught the light. In the mirror she looked like she belonged in this world of blood and money and beautiful lies. The scariest part was that she was starting to feel like it too. "Let's go crash a party," she said. They walked toward the door, toward the cars, toward an auction where art and murder mixed like champagne and poison. And somewhere in that glittering underworld, Natalie Cruz was about to discover that the waitress she'd dismissed had learned to play a much more dangerous game. One where invisible girls wore diamonds and smiled like knives. The auction house looked like a museum had a baby with a bank vault. Crystal chandeliers. Marble columns. Men in tuxedos and women in gowns that cost more than small countries. All gathered to bid on things that had been stolen from other people who'd stolen them first. The art of theft, dressed up in black tie and champagne. Jade's hand tightened on Dominic's arm as they descended the stairs into the main gallery. Every eye turned. Every conversation paused. She felt their attention like a physical weight, assessing, calculating, wondering. "Smile," Dominic murmured. "You're supposed to be enjoying yourself. I'm about to have a panic attack in diamonds. Close enough." His laugh was quiet, genuine. "Just keep breathing. And stay close." Then Jade saw her. Natalie Cruz stood near the far wall, wearing emerald green like a declaration of war. Her hair was different, shorter, darker, but her face was unmistakable. She was speaking with a man who looked carved from granite and expensive suits, his hand possessive on her lower back. Victor Kane. Had to be. Natalie's eyes found them across the room. For one heartbeat her mask slipped. Shock, then fury, then something colder. Calculation. She smiled. Started walking toward them. Here we go, Jade whispered. Natalie approached like a queen granting an audience, Victor trailing behind her like a particularly dangerous shadow. She stopped 3 feet away, close enough to speak without shouting, far enough to maintain the illusion of civility. Dominic. Her voice was honey over broken glass. How unexpected. And you brought company. Jade Miller. Jade offered her hand, watched Natalie's smile falter for just a fraction of a second. We haven't been formally introduced. I'm the waitress who ruined your murder. The gallery went silent. Even the string quartet seemed to miss a note. Natalie's laugh was brittle. I don't know what you're. Drop it. Dominic's voice cut like a blade. We have the tablet, Natalie. All of it. Every transaction, every contact, every pathetic plan you thought was clever. Victor's hand moved toward his jacket. Immediately, 6 of Dominic's men materialized from the crowd, hands inside their own jackets, forming a loose perimeter. Where's Maria? Dominic's voice was deadly calm now. Tell me where she is and maybe I let you walk out of here. Natalie's mask shattered completely. Let me walk out. You arrogant. You think this is your city? Your legacy? She stepped closer, all pretense gone. You inherited an empire you didn't build. Your father, your grandfather, they were giants. You're just a man playing dress up in their shadows. This isn't about the business, Jade realized aloud. This was never about the business. Smart girl. Natalie's eyes were wild now, beautiful and unhinged. He got everything handed to him. The name, the power, the respect. I had to claw for every inch. And then I had to smile and play the pretty girlfriend while he... You wanted to be him, Dominic said quietly. Not kill me. Replace me. I wanted what you wasted. Natalie's voice cracked. The Russo name means something. Meant something. And you've been letting it rot while you play at being legitimate, being civilized. I would have made it great again. By cutting off Maria's finger? Jade's voice was steel. By murdering the man who trusted you? That's your idea of greatness. Natalie's laugh was almost a scream. Maria's already dead, you stupid bitch. I sent the message hours ago. The gunshot came from nowhere and everywhere. The chandelier exploded. Crystal rained down like deadly snow. Someone screamed. Victor drew his weapon. Dominic shoved Jade behind a marble pillar as the gallery erupted into chaos. More gunshots. The crowd scattered. Priceless paintings shredded under gunfire. Jade's ears rang. Her hands found Dominic's gun. She didn't remember him teaching her where he kept it, but muscle memory was a strange thing. Through the smoke and screaming, she saw Natalie running toward the back exit, her emerald dress a flag in the chaos. Go. Dominic was returning fire, keeping Victor's men pinned. Stop her. Jade ran. The heels came off halfway across the gallery. The dress tore. The diamonds bounced against her throat like a countdown. She caught Natalie at the service door, grabbed her arm, spun her around. They stood facing each other. The waitress and the socialite. The nobody and the woman who wanted everything. Maria's alive, Jade said. You're bluffing. You're always bluffing. Natalie's smile was poison. Guess you'll find out. Then she lunged. The fight was brief, brutal, nothing like movies. Jade had survival. Natalie had rage. They crashed through the door into a loading dock, and somewhere in the Chicago night, sirens wailed like the city itself was screaming. This was it. The moment where invisible girls either disappeared forever or became something impossible to ignore. Jade chose the latter. Natalie Cruz died the way she lived. Dramatically, expensively, and making a mess someone else had to clean up. The loading dock fight ended when Dominic's men arrived, guns drawn, options eliminated. Natalie made her choice. She lunged for Victor's discarded weapon, and the bullets that followed were inevitable as sunrise. She hit the concrete in her emerald dress, blood spreading like spilled wine, her eyes still burning with the rage of wanting something she could never have. Maria was found 6 hours later, locked in a warehouse on the south side. Alive. Terrified. Missing a finger but breathing, which in this world counted as a happy ending. The city exhaled. The underworld recalibrated. Dominic Russo's territory solidified, his reputation now carved in the kind of stone that didn't erode. The man who survived his girlfriend's betrayal. The king who kept his throne. And Jade Miller, the waitress who'd become a ghost who'd become something else entirely, stood in Dominic's study 3 days later, still wearing borrowed clothes, still not quite believing any of it was real. "I have a proposition," Dominic said. He stood by the window, morning light turning him into a silhouette. "You stay. Work with me. You've proven you're smart, resourceful. You think differently than anyone in my organization. That's valuable." Valuable. Jade tasted the word. Like an asset? Like a partner? The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implications neither of them were ready to name. "Let me guess," Jade said, crossing her arms. "I get a nice apartment, a monthly allowance, and the privilege of smiling at your side during business dinners. The devoted girlfriend who knows when to stay quiet." Dominic turned. His expression was unreadable. "That's not what I'm offering." "Then what are you offering?" He moved to his desk, pulled out a folder. Inside were documents, legal papers, things with signatures and seals that looked official. 30% stake in 3 legitimate businesses. A seat at the table when decisions are made. Your own bank account, your own security detail, your own goddamn life. You work with me, not for me. Jade stared at the papers. At the numbers that would make her invisible life feel like a fever dream. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Because you earned it." Dominic's voice was softer now, almost gentle. "Because you saved my life and didn't ask for anything in return. Because in a world full of people who want to use me or kill me, you're the only one who's ever told me the truth. I mocked your interior design." "Exactly." A ghost of a smile. "Partners don't flatter. They challenge. They make you better." Jade looked at the papers. At the life he was offering. Security. Power. Everything the waitress version of herself had never dared to dream. "I have conditions," she said. "I'd expect nothing less. I'm not arm candy. I'm not your property. And if you ever lock me in a room again, partnership's over and I take my 30% straight to your competitors." Dominic actually laughed. "Agreed. I want Maria to have a proper security detail. And I want to learn everything. The business, the connections, how this world actually works." "Done." Jade picked up the pen. Stared at the signature line. One signature and Jade Miller, invisible waitress, would disappear forever. In her place would be someone new. Someone dangerous. Someone who mattered. She signed. Dominic's hand covered hers. Warm, steady. "Welcome to the family business." "I prefer partner, actually." "Partner, then." They stood in the study, morning light painting them in gold. 2 people who'd survived by being smart enough to trust the right person at the right moment. Outside, Chicago glittered. A city of secrets and violence and opportunity. Inside, Jade Miller, partner, survivor, the girl who'd stopped being invisible, smiled. And in that smile was something Dominic Russo recognized immediately, something that made his blood run cold and hot simultaneously. Ambition. 3 months later, a new player emerged in Chicago's underworld. No one knew where she came from. Only that she was ruthless, brilliant, and somehow connected to Dominic Russo in ways that made people whisper. And when asked her name, she smiled that same dangerous smile and said, "Nobody. I'm nobody." But everybody knew that was a lie. The question was, what would nobody do next?